Senzo Meyiwa's friend Tumelo Madlala has given an emotional account of how he saw Senzo Meyiwa's corpse in hospital. Madlala is the seventh witness in the football star's restarted matter. He was one of the people who were inside the house when Meyiwa was gunned down. Zikhona Tshona has been following proceedings in court for us. And Zikhona Tshona, what happened before that moment? Because he says that a healthcare official then came out of the room and asked for an elder so that what could happen.
So before then, Tumelo Madlala has basically been recalling his movements on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was shot. He says he traveled to Johannesburg from Durban after Senzo had invited him to attend a party here. So he says that before going to the party, they then went to Kelly Khumalo's home. There, two intruders came in. He described the first intruder as someone who had dreadlocks and was wearing a hat. He came in with a gun and was demanding cell phones and money. The other, he says, was wearing a hoodie. He says, in fact, Senzo had pinned one of these intruders against the door, and he's pointed out accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, as the one that Senzo had pinned against the door. Now, this is the second witness to point out the accused before court. We know that Zandile Khumalo has also, in her testimony, pointed out Bongani Ntanzi as one of the intruders inside the house on that day. Thereafter, he says he hit this intruder in the face while Senzo had him pinned against the door, and he heard a gunshot go off. He then ran into one of the rooms to hide out. When he came out, he noticed that Senzo was lying on the floor. They put Senzo in a car and rushed him to hospital. So at this point, where he's talking, where he got emotional, in fact, is when he was describing what happened at the hospital. He says Senzo was rushed into a room, and thereafter a healthcare worker came out asking for an elder. He says at that point he realized that they were about to get bad news. But let's take a listen to what he had to say when he in fact got an opportunity or a chance to see his friend at the hospital.
Yes. Kumula asinto engambuza nokuqala ngambuza ukuthi kanti ungibizeleni ungibizele lento ukuthi uzongibonisa lento.
Remember, the first thing that I actually asked him was, in an actual fact, why did you call me? Is this the reason why you called me? You called me to witness this thing?
Emva kwalokho afika labonesi ke befuna ukusikhipha la ngaphakathi ne. Bethu asibuyele ngale. Then ngamqabuza esiphongweni ngamvala ke ngasabuyela ngala.
Then came the nurses and they said that we should go back to the initial spot of our waiting. And I then kissed him on the forehead, then covered him or veiled him again, and I started crying.
And then he says thereafter they were taken, all of them were taken to a police building where an ID parade was taking place. He says they were all placed in separate rooms. But he says after the incident, many people came to him, even when he was at home in KZN, taking statements from him. He then says Senzo Meyiwa's father was no longer fond of him, and I guess it's from the frustration from not knowing what really happened to his son. Police then advised that he go into witness protection, and they promised that his daughter will be schooled, or they'll find a school for his daughter, and in that witness protection he will be safe. But he says he felt those were empty promises, so he left the witness protection after about 3 weeks. I think he testified. So for now, he is still giving his testimony. We are expecting the defense to then start off with their cross-examination of this witness. Very important out of his testimony is the description of these said intruders. Do they contradict those who have previously testified before this court and described what these intruders looked like, what weapons they were carrying? So far he's mentioned that the first intruder had dreadlocks, was wearing a hat, and was holding a firearm. He hasn't said anything about the second intruder except to say that Senzo had pinned him against the wall and that he was wearing a hoodie.
Zikhona Tshona, thank you very much for that update.